Live from New York, it's Ask This Engineer.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Ask Engineer. We're still here. We're just going to keep doing this every week until the end of the earth.
Every day, every way.
Every day and every way. It's me, Lady Ada. With me is Mr. Lady Ada. Coming to you from downtown Manhattan, where we do our manufacturing and our media production. So
Yeah,
we're indoors, but we're
we're at home right now.
doing electronics.
We'll have some factory footage. We do a staggered shift at Adafruit to keep all of our team safe. So we have about 100 people or so, 3 different floors doing our shifts. So we keep everyone safe, minimal amount of people, lots of distance. I think we're keeping like 20 feet away.
Yeah,
it's masks, gloves,
dividers,
and more. And we're shipping everything safely. Thank you, everyone, for your orders. We're still in business, which is good. So thank you. Don't forget to go to adafruit.com and place an order. So we do a weekly show called Ask an Engineer. That's what we're doing right now.
That's right.
And do you want to kick it off?
Let's kick it off.
All right, on tonight's show, we'll talk about folks that run Show and Tell, packed Show and Tell this week. We also had a special edition one with JP and the folks over at Hack Club for the Summer of Making. Speaking of JP, we'll talk about what was on JP shows last week and upcoming, along with a MakeCode Minute. We have some CircuitPython news, Python and hardware news. We have some time travel. We have main New York City factory footage, 3D printing. DigiKey and Adafruit will present Ion MPI. We got new products. We got some top secret. We'll answer your questions. We do that over on Discord, adafruit.it/Discord.
Just 25,000 members.
That's right.
Amazing.
All that and more on, you guessed it, Ask an Engineer.
Okay.
So first up, let's just go over some stuff. The Adafruit site, we do our little reminder, which we've tried to do for a while. Please continue to wear a mask, everybody. We've been operating as an essential business early on. Mm-hmm. So we manufactured face shields for New York City. We manufactured essential electronics from things from ventilators to all sorts of sensors. And our team came back when, even though we could have came back early, we came back basically when New York State said, okay, like everybody could come back.
Yeah.
So this is, some pictures of our team pre-COVID. And when you place an order, these are the folks that you continue to keep employed. Thank you. It is hard running a company right now.
That's right.
It is one of those things where I'm glad we didn't do a retail store. I'm glad we don't have to do things that other companies do, but we do have to continue to get electronics to all of you. And the only way you can do that is if you place an order. So
yeah. It's tough. New York City is definitely struggling. We're part of the city. We employ New Yorkers, and we're in New York, and so we're part of this ecosystem, and it's tough to watch what's happening. A lot of businesses are struggling, and I have a lot of sympathy for them. It's really, really tough. We see restaurants and retail stores and businesses and hotels, and they, New York has a really cool culture of not just always shopping at the chain stores. We have a lot of independently owned businesses. Yeah. And those are the ones that are actually having the toughest time. Yeah,
and Adafruit is a 100% woman-owned independent business, and we're navigating it. It's just always going to be a rocky restart. And so, we're pretty good at projecting what's going to happen next, but we have, a rocky recovery ahead. And one of the reasons is schools open, then schools close, and we are a pretty popular educational supplier. We have supply chain things that come up once in a while. Early on, it was hard to get some stuff. Thermal cameras are still out of stock around the world for a while.
But we're right on it. We're actually improving our stock numbers. I think we're close to 85% overall in stock. Going to try to get to 90 or above.
So in case folks, I try to do a maker business segment during the shows. We're okay. We're going to be able to continue doing Adafruit, but I will just ask, tweet about us, post about us, get the word out about us. I think whatever is going on, I think everyone agrees having a cool woman-owned electronics company that's trying to do good is a good idea. So Made in USA Electronics is kind of cool. All right, so let's go to one of the things that we're doing right now, which is the freebies. So what we wanted to do is give folks a way. Well, we want to thank folks in a big way, and the way we're doing this is cycling through a bunch of
free stuff,
stemmas. And so stemmas are really cool connector-based system that allows you to connect all these electronics. And when you place an order, you get a stemma.
That's right. If you place an order of $99 or more, you get a free Proto half-size breadboard. These are very handy and they don't go bad, so you can use them for projects to make your breadboard projects permanent. If you order $150 or more, you'll get a free stemma. So these are cool. These are plug-and-play sensors and devices and digital potentiometers and USB to GPIO converters and also accelerometers and all sorts of like cool weird stuff. If you make an account, we'll send you a different one each time. If you don't make an account, though, you'll just get a random one, so we can't control what that is. But if you make an account, which I recommend, we don't sell your data. It just means that we'll be able to keep track of which ones we've given you. And we're going to keep adding, you know, as we add more cool stemma boards, we'll add them to the freebies, so they'll keep current with the latest and greatest. So $150 or more, $150 or more if you order at the Adafruit shop, which we always appreciate. And then $199 or more, you get free UPS ground, and then $250 or more, you get a free Circuit Playground Express.
Yeah. All right. We have a show and tell every single week. People around the world show and share projects. We are back to the 7:30 to 8 p.m. schedule. The reason we did that is when there was lockdown, we wanted to have a place where everyone could come for like a full hour. However, now we're like, we really need to get that half an hour back because we want to continue to have stuff in stock. Lydia wants to do
today we had
products.
the hack space.
Yeah, so we still, like, there might be some
club.
special events, but we do 7:30 to 8 and
Yep.
then Ask an Engineer 8 to 9. So we also had the special edition one this week. JP did it. It was with Hack Club. And shout out to Sam. Thank you, Sam, for all your...
Thank you, Sam. And thank you for all the Hack Club participants.
Yeah, they have a hardware grant that you can check out. I think it's up to $50,000 worth total for their hardware grant. So this week, who's on the show and tell, and what did they share?
I'm glad you asked. We kicked it off with Sean Heimel representing DigiKey. We cycle out different DigiKey folks. He's working on a new project, which I think he'll document and have videos for, which is using the OpenMV machine learning dev board, which is a really cool product. We stock it, and so does DigiKey, of course. And he used the OpenMV to take photos of piles of Legos and then identify the round Lego piece, like the 4-dot round Lego piece. And then with Edge Impulse programmed the OpenMV to indicate where in a pile of Legos there was this little round Lego bit. So he did a live demo and it worked. Like he had a pile, he put it in the pile and it put a little box around it and said, I found that round Lego piece. So that's pretty cool. You know, we're actually getting to the point where individuals can do machine learning projects without a lot of complexity, without needing to understand the depth of machine learning, which is limitless. There's a lot of tools like Edge Impulse and the OpenMV that make it really easy. So check out the video. I think it's probably published on DigiKey. And Sean Heimel also has his own YouTube channel. Trevor came by with more Swift UI kit demos. He's having a grand time with this amazing new UI system for making iOS apps, which Trevor does for us. He's our iOS dev. And he's just been so excited about it. It's like so heartwarming. We had also some other people from the Adafruit community. JP showed off some sprite animation, some bitmap image, like sprite bitmap image showcasing on a matrix portal. Thanks to Melissa for adding the bitmap slideshow code for that. So that's what he showed off. Brent wanted to make a appliance controller for his AC unit because the AC unit kind of like doesn't turn off. Like it's either off or on, but there's like no in between. So what he did is he hooked up a Pi portal to a power switch, relay power switch to connect to his AC unit, and then used a light sensor as a feedback so that he can use Adafruit I/O to turn his AC on and off, and the light sensor will tell him whether it actually turned on or off. So it's like a cool feedback system, which I always recommend. Colin made a e-ink pen to remind people to fill out your census. And now's a great time to do it. You're watching the show, you know, you're not doing anything else, you're watching the show. Open up census.gov and fill out your census, because no matter what community you're in, they get more money when you fill out the census. And that's why it's important to do, because that money is used for roads, it's used for education, it's used to give people benefits that they need. And it's never more important. If you don't fill it out, that's a chunk of change that your community isn't going to get. And people don't do the census twice. So it's important that everybody does it. And I think only
There's no do-over.
There's no do-over, and only 50% of the people do it. So please please do it for your household. Only one person per household needs to do it, and you cover everybody. So that's like super easy. And only have to do it once every 10 years. And they say it's like 10 minutes or less. I finished it in like 30 seconds. Like there's like 5 questions. They're like, who are you? Where do you live? Your zip code, and like I think your age, and maybe like some other question or two. Erin wrote a song and made a video to wear a mask. She's channeling her frustration with people who do not wear masks, because if we all wore masks, we could get through this. Phil B made a wear clock. It's a moonrise clock with dynamic moon phase display, which is pretty sweet because, usually when you have calendars that tell you the moon phase, they're just like, today is a full moon, or today is a new moon, or today's a quarter moon. He's like, no, it's a percentage, and it actually changes throughout the day. You can see it moving. So this cool moon phase clock is great if you're really into things lunar or astronomical.
I didn't want we didn't have enough time on show and tell for werewolf questions, but if we're gonna go down the path of the full moon is at this percentage, so does that mean that the werewolves have some way to know when it's 100%, or did we?
I think it's tides.
Or did we get werewolves kind of wrong, where you're kind of getting more werewolf?
You think it's an exponential thing where it's like as you get towards like 95% full, they just start wearing out more. Maybe.
Yeah. If there's werewolf experts, let me know. Like why?
Come on by.
So the full moon just doesn't happen as a full moon.
I know, it's not instantaneous.
It's not instantaneous.
It's like depending on where you are on Earth. It's like, well, what if it's a full moon, but you're at the one part of the hemisphere of Earth that doesn't see the moon? It's like daylight. So you're going to werewolf out during the day. Like, how does that work?
There was lots of questions that came up with gremlins and mogwais and midnight and airplanes and international dateline. So I think someone has solved
daylight
this.
savings.
Someone has solved this, but I think that we're on our way to helping solve this question that I don't think anyone's asked. Is we have this digital clock that'll say the percentage of moons now.
Yeah. Now Pedro showed off some 3D printed handles for a matrix portal display. Handy if you want to play the sand demo. Scott is working on a mock XO2 FPGA board that has STEM QT connectors. It doesn't quite work yet, but when it does, it's going to be able to replace any 7400 logic. We had, you know what, I wrote down Mark, but I don't think their name was Mark. Shoot. A very nice person came by with a smartwatch. They made a custom smartwatch.
That was Michael.
Michael, thank you. There was so much cool stuff going on. I miswrote their name. Mike had a cool custom smartwatch with a feather sense board. And he uses our Bluetooth code to synchronize with an iOS device, so there's no real-time clock in the watch. Instead, it just synchronizes whenever it sees a nearby iOS device, which is like really smart. Target had a really bad summer or winter 10 years ago, but instead of doing something drastic, ended up learning electronics, which is a little bit drastic, but not as drastic as it could be, and learned how to create a Bluetooth to FM converter using Arduino, and then has taken this dark time we're in now and used that to learn how to make custom PCBs. And so he's made a whole bunch of cool custom PCBs with ESP32S2s, sockets, and electronics, and updated his FM converter. Now have OLED display. It's really nice for his partner Sylvia. And then Mark showed off the finished rotating lithograph lamp. Uses NeoPixels, plays MP3s, all done in CircuitPython. It's going to be a wonderful gift for a new family in his life.
All right, thank you everybody for coming on to Show and Tell. A little bit of a reminder, Show and Tell is 7:30 p.m. Ask an Engineer is 8. That's 7:30 Show and Tell. That's 8. Ask an Engineer.
Don't forget.
Every Sunday we have Desk of Lady Ada, and we've recently added...
Got a great tune.
That's right, the Great Search with DigiKey. So what Lady Ada does, she'll go through and show how to use the DigiKey site, which I think is amazing, because there's some times where there's millions of a part, and you can
there's millions,
and you can whittle it down to
get that one part you need.
And it takes a lot of time, and even if you know what you're doing, it takes a lot of time, because there's so many different specs and choices. So.
Oh, and every single part has a different technique. You know, the way I search for inductors is different than the way I search for boost converters, different than the way I search for LEDs. It's all different.
Yeah. On Tuesday, JP has the product pick of the week, and then he also has his show, which is tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time. But I want to do a little bit of a snippet, a little bit of a highlight, because one thing that there's so much noise and distraction. I don't think the industry press is not going to pick this up. But we do a live broadcast, and the video is embedded in the product page. And JP's product pick of the week, you go to the product page, watch his live stream. It's on Adafruit.com.
Yeah.
And you watch the live stream about that product. And for that time and that time only, the product is on sale. And when you add it to cart, you get the discount right then and there. There's no putting in a code. There's no anything. And you have something special because you're like, I was there. I was part of this. I asked questions. I did that. And you see, like, companies, especially in Asia, they do stuff like this. It's like a very high-tech QVC.
Yeah, because there's just so many Taobao vendors. They figure out, how to...
And there were some false starts in the U.S. Kickstarter had a live streaming thing. They didn't do it eventually. Amazon bought Twitch, and you don't get a live product stream on an Amazon page.
Which is weird.
Which you'd be like, why isn't it there? And so there's a lot of disconnected things with live video and products, and we wanted to bring it together. So if there was any mind space, I think this would be an interesting story because we're doing this. But there isn't, because it's all just like a daily national nightmare. So we can't really write about innovative things in how products are made and sold.
Yeah.
So here's a preview, a little highlight of one of JP's shows.
This is it. This is the AHT20 temperature and humidity sensor. You'll see here I've got simple code in CircuitPython to display the humidity of that sensor right there. If I take this and I breathe on it, kind of like you fog a mirror, I'm going to go ahead and fog it. You can see very quickly we've taken it up to 100% humidity, and then the dry air here drops it back down very quickly. If I hit the A button, now I'm switching over to temperature. That is my pick of the week. And I'm going to go ahead and do my ceremonial moving of the AHT20 sensor to the pegboard of Stemma QT goodness. See you next week.
The other
I love the graphic.
So here's the other thing we're doing. So when YouTube back in the day visited us, back even when you had visitors in buildings.
Yeah.
They had basically implied if we had like females in the screenshot or in the thumbnail, that drives views. And you should make your videos like Cutie Pie, because that's what they were really focusing on, that type of content.
Yeah.
And we're just like, you guys say you care about like women in tech, and but when you actually talk, you don't. So one of the things, instead of just like being mad about that forever, we said, we have this like new product show.
Yeah.
Why don't we have like
Let's
these?
make it nutty.
Why don't we go like almost a parody of these YouTube thumbnails?
Yeah.
And like, if that's what the algorithm wants, fine. Here's algorithm.
I love that he made his eye bigger. I mean, like, it's fucking funny.
It's cool.
I think it's funny.
And I think JP's daughter is like,
she said what was...
Here's how to make it like kind of over the top. So we're trying this out, and that's.
And watch next week, because we're gonna start doing extreme discounts on the product. So that's another thing that we got from the inspired by Taobao, is the way the vendors do it. They're like, basically, it's 30% off, 40% off for that 1 hour during the video. So we're gonna do the same thing with JP's video as well.
So, I'm trying to turn that like, this is like, because if you go on YouTube and search for something, you see like that style thumbnail, because that's what everyone's told, and there's like, YouTube influencers, and once one person does it, everyone does it. So instead of just like fighting it, why don't we just like have one thing that we're doing that's okay, fine, like here it is. We're not going to change all our content to be like that, but like this is funny for now. Eventually, like it just like all things, it'll be like, now it's all about like just a big font, and then one day it'll be something else. So, anyways, JP also does a MakeCode Minute, and we're going to do that.
Let's go check that out.
For the MakeCode Minute today, what I wanted to do was create a simple color mixer inside of MakeCode on the Circuit Playground Express. If you have a look at my Circuit Playground Express here, I've hastily cut out a little piece of LED plastic to cover the LEDs so the camera will pick up the colors nice and saturated. And what you'll see here is when I touch a capacitive pad near one of the LEDs, I'm going to shoot that color component over to this fourth LED here. And so now I've got blue and red mixing together to form a sort of pinky purpley. And if I click the B button, it sends all the pixels to that color. So now I can mix in some green and red to get yellow. I can even mix all the colors together and get white. So this is kind of a fun way to look at how light color is mixed. And if we look at how it's built inside of the MakeCode here, you can see I've got the key thing is 3 variables here for red, green, and blue values. And when I touch one of those capacitive touchpads, I'm setting the value to 100. This is out of a possible 255, but I didn't want it to be too bright. So I'm adding a 100 from 0 to jump up to 100 for each of these color components. And then I'm setting the pixel to white just to show that we've touched it. Then I set the pixel back to its own color, and I set the fourth pixel to have that value as its color component by breaking it out here with the set pixel color at pixel 6 to red, green, and blue. And then when I press the B button, it again takes all those color components and adds them up and places them on every NeoPixel, pauses for a second, and then it restarts it and resets it. So that's a way that you can create a very fun and simple color mixer inside of MakeCode using the Circuit Playground Express. And that is your MakeCode Minute.
Okay, time travel. Let's get to some news and more. So
This week sucked.
Yeah, so on Friday, we glanced over, and we had just finished State of the Fruit, our weekly all-company meeting, and we saw that Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. And, 2020 continues to deliver bad news, and it doesn't look like it's going to change, so we have to be good to each other because it looks like each other is all we got at the moment. And, we mourn, we grieved, but we're people that like to do something. So in New York, there was a vigil. And one thing, the way that I look at this is, because you kind of even look like her a little bit. Just a little bit, you're kind of small and you got glasses and you're very smart. But one thing I think about is Adafruit couldn't have started generations ago because you would have needed to get a man to sign for a credit card, or a guy to sign to start a business, or there's a lot of equality things that happened, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg helped make that happen. And I think that in the political world, regardless of what people, whatever party thing or whatever's going on in the news this hour, I think everyone agrees that she was a deliberate, thoughtful person, and we need more of it.
Yeah.
People can disagree about, their opinions, but you can always be professional and try to work to the best possible thing. So, what a life, what a person. And it hit us hard because the foundation of Adafruit is this woman company. It's expanded because we're a cool, diverse company with, all walks of life and all people. But having a woman-owned company, you always think about the people that help make it happen. So we went to the vigil, and one of the things that we did is, we do electronics, and this is how we express ourselves. This is our art. So we made a little panel, and we wanted to test out one of our new products. So we made this RBG panel.
Well, when we go to events, there's always people who have cool costumes or cool signs that light up, and so we thought, I was already working on this code, so I just swapped in the Wikipedia photo of Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah, so here it is, and I just wanted to show the little video that I took. We went to Foley Square, the courthouse, beautiful vigil. Everyone was peaceful, everything's fine. You'll see it. And we're able to, see people, and, this is how you share pain. We do it through electronics, so here it is. Okay, so, as you saw, that was a bag that we put together when we go to protests, vigils, marches. We've been to a lot of them because there's been a lot of reasons to go to them. We bring masks and sanitizers if anyone needs them. The Mr. Rogers quote, look for the helpers. So if we see people who need masks or if there's things that we can do, but we also want to go there to show support. And speaking of, some bad news today. This is a block from Adafruit. There's been Breonna Taylor posters. There's been people trying to raise awareness. She's murdered in her home. There was some mistakes made with how everything happened. And it looks like right now the officers who did it, the one charge for one of the officers is because he shot an apartment. So another apartment. So
and she wasn't even like part of the warrant. Like,
yeah.
This is the thing. It's like she's at home. She gets woken up, and there's just guys coming in with guns trying to find somebody or shoot her. It's just such a bad idea to have no knock warrants.
So it's been 172 days. It's been a long time. This came out today, and check out our action page, adafruit.com/Black Lives Matter. There's 2 marches tonight going on. And if you're wondering why is this an Adafruit? Why is this an electronic show? If you work at Adafruit, there's a lot of people that look like the people that are getting murdered. That's our company. And so this is an important issue for us because you can't have equality when some people get shot and murdered and there's no accountability. There's mistakes that'll happen, but there always has to be accountability, and it's not happening. And this is when the penalty. So if you shoot a gun in the air in Louisville, this is what the officer gets charged. Same charge, not that someone was murdered. So this is going to be something that the arc bends. There's justice that'll happen, but this was a big setback today. So we'll probably be at some of the marches. You might see another panel with another person's name on it. It's just one of the things that we're in New York City, and this is important to our team, and we're going to continue to get the word out. On my phone, I have the speed dial thing that was calling when anytime I had to wait somewhere, I would call the Louisville City Council, and you do this. There's a phone number that you can use, and it'll flip through each City Council member. I'd leave a message. I actually got a chance to talk to some of them, and they said, "Yeah, keep calling." And I was like, "Hey, maybe this will be like a turning point. There'll be something that changes."
Of a year or 2 years ago, there were a lot of stories about how police officers were taking stuff from people. I don't remember the word for it, but it's like they would seize people's money or their jewelry or their goods and not even charge the person with a crime. They just said, "We think that you're guilty. You have to give up your stuff, or we're going to take you to jail." And so this is how a lot of police departments ended up basically stealing from people to fund their departments and buy stuff that they wanted or get cars or equipment they wanted. And when all these stories came out, people were like, "Oh my God, that's ridiculous. That's outrageous." And so we've actually tried to stop it. There has to be the outrage so that people say, why is this legal? Why is it okay for police officers to break into somebody's home, the wrong home, and they're confused, and then shoot somebody who just got woken up and doesn't understand why there's a half a dozen cops with guns in their apartment.
Yeah, and I guess because I'll get some hate mail as usually do, but I in advance maybe I'll just send a link, time-coded link. If you keep seeing people who look like you getting murdered and nothing's happening, there's no accountability. We all have to figure out something because there's going to be marches, there's going to be protests, and then there's going to be a bunch of pain being expressed in all sorts of different ways. And it always doesn't work out. And so we just have to figure out, I know this is election year, I know this is all stuff, I know we're just an electronics company, but
I can't teach people electronics if they're fearing for their lives, right? That's not, that these are incompatible things. You need to have the basics in place, and then we can get more people into engineering.
Yeah, and then like one other note with that, when there was a school shooting every single day, these are the things that we have to cope with as an electronics company too. It's really difficult to talk to teachers and help them with curriculums on electronics when they're trying to do stop, drop, and roll from active shooters. Like, there's a lot of things we really need to work out, and this is just one of the things, and we'll continue to do the best we can as a company. 41 days from now, it's going to be election month, and I'm going to just start saying that. We have it on our site. We have resources, adafruit.com/vote. A few people, thank you so much, have signed up to be poll workers. Those are the types of things that we think is important. Please help out with this process. There's not as many poll workers because there was a lot of elderly people, and they are sitting out because of COVID, as they should, because that is one of the populations that happens to get infected a lot. Next up, CircuitPython 6. We are in beta.
That's right. We have the beta 0 release. A lot of cool stuff. We're adding ASP32S2 support. That's like the big push for CircuitPython 6. We've renamed it I2C peripheral. There's more. There's BLEIO HCI support. Just a lot of bug fixes and updates, speed ups as well. We've also done a lot of work on the Wi-Fi and JSON code to reduce the amount of static memory required to do a lot of IoT projects. So a lot of improvements, and more platforms are being supported.
Yeah.
Also a lovely little graphic.
I was going to say, if you look really close, there's some like Easter egg like things. Okay, we are an open source hardware company.
Open Hardware Month coming up.
Open Hardware Month is coming up. And to prove we're an open source hardware company, one, we send our files or links to our files off to OSHWA, and we are the #1 certified open source hardware company is time.
That's right.
We want folks to beat that.
Beat me.
But we also have 2,295 guides. Lady Ada, what's on the big board this week?
I'm glad you asked. We right before the show went live, we put in the moon phase clock for the Adafruit Matrix portal. Phil B did a beautiful job with this guide. If you're a lunatic, this is the guide for you. We've also got the handles for the Matrix Pi portal. Noah and Pedro did this project for the Raspberry Pi. But now we have it all plug and play with an Arduino, so it's a great time to port those handle 3D prints over to the 64x32 matrix that people really like. JP has a Halloween countdown. It's, yes, it's 41 days to the election, but maybe instead of thinking about that, you can think about how it's about 35 days until Halloween. So people can just sit at home and cry and eat candy. Brent has an IoT power outlet. It's kind of a cool project because he controls his AC unit over Adafruit I/O, so with Wi-Fi remotely. This is like a very common first project, and then he uses a light sensor to detect when the AC unit is on or off. So it's got a feedback circuit as well. Melissa wrote a guide on how to turn NeoPixel matrices, like we have these grids, or people make their own by using LED strip, how to turn that into like a grid matrix that you can then draw text and graphics and bitmaps on. And then Colin made a pin to celebrate voting. You can have it says I vote, and then when you press a button it says I voted, and then it asks did you? And I think that's the new product.
Yeah.
New guide. Last two are from
we have our SAN thing. We're going to show some of that. We have our Halloween countdown. We also have
NeoPixels. Yeah, but now you can treat them just like a display. It's cool.
And the IoT project. So we'll have more guides. Go to learn.adafruit.com and check out all the guides. 2,295. Oof.
And how many to?
2,295.
We're almost at 2,300.
Yeah, getting there.
That's cool.
Okay, so Made in New York City factory footage this week. I'm going to show you a 3-minute video. Trust me, it's worth it. This is some factory footage, hot off the press. We just did a quick run through because we're sending some footage off to Made in New York City, which is an effort to show that there are companies still alive and working in New York. And I wanted to just share it with y'all. This is the first time I'm going to see it in its entirety as well. And it wouldn't be Adafruit factory footage without seeing where your Disney Plus subscription money goes to. It goes to building the Disney headquarters, one of the buildings across the street from Adafruit. Although, I'm starting to think that
They're just
they're
building
just
a
moving.
house. I mean, like
They're just moving dirt around. I don't know. Maybe they don't have a deadline. I don't know. But that's what's going on across the street. And then here's a nice fall afternoon.
nice
And,
clouds.
Yeah.
Okay.
3D printing. Every week, Don Pedro have 3D Hangouts, longest running 3D printed show. We also have 2 videos we're going to see on the other side. We have a 3D printed handles for our Matrix portal, and then we have a helmet. Helmet
Cool.
ones are always cool.
That one's neat.
Hey, what's up folks? In this video, we're making a project with Adafruit's Matrix portal. We designed and 3D printed these large handles for the RGB matrix so we could play with the digital sand demo. The Adafruit Matrix portal is a plug-and-play dev board that makes it easier to do internet-connected projects using RGB matrices. It features a Cortex M4 and the ESP32. It also has an onboard LIS3DH accelerometer. With the STEMMA QT connector, it can work with Adafruit's 50+ STEMMA QT boards. It's designed to snap on the back of RGB matrices that use a Hub 75 port. It uses power over USB-C, so there's no soldering needed to get up and running. We think this makes RGB matrix projects much more compact, especially with a single board. The handle on the side has a cutout for the PCB so you can still access the onboard components. To install the handles, orient it with the PCB and use screws to secure it to the threaded inserts. The matrix portal is press-fit into the header with the data input pins. We used a short USB-C cable with a right-angled adapter to keep the wiring minimal. The power cable plugs into the power pins on the back of the display. This USB battery is just the right fit to add to the back with some mounting tab. And that's pretty much all we need to make this portable. The RGB matrix library for CircuitPython makes it easy to create scrolling text and animations using Display.io. Check out the Learn Guide for documentation using the library and example demo code like Conway's Game of Life. For Arduino folks, you can check out the Protomatter RGB matrix library. There's several IoT projects on Adafruit's Learn system, like a weather display, scrolling quotes, Bitcoin tracker, and even a moon clock for those werewolf engineers. This black LED acrylic softens up the LEDs and keeps the colors looking vibrant. You can attach acrylic to the display using ProTape's glue dash sheets. Just attach small pieces to the corners and remove the protective backing. Then just line up the acrylic with the edges and stick it over the display. This makes the display show up much better on camera, so you can even use it in the background of your videos. We hope this inspires you to check out Adafruit's Matrix portal and try out CircuitPython. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more projects from Adafruit.
Okay, don't forget, once again, 3D Hangouts.
Okay.
Wednesday at 11 a.m.
Speaking of,
All right, Lady Ada,
it's time for
DigiKey and Adafruit bring you
on NPI.
All right, this week's Eye on NPI.
is from PUI Audio. They make
right.
cool speakers and enunciators and all sorts of audio projects and products.
And the most excellent logo.
This logo is
I like
pretty
it.
sweet. And actually, it's an updated logo, too. They sell a lot.
This is like the Joy Division album that never happened. It's cool.
Yeah, it's got a cool chillness to it.
Yeah.
So PUI makes speakers and microphones and all sorts of audio stuff. They're actually here in the U.S., which is super cool. I always like supporting American companies. And this week's NPI, actually a bunch of really great NPIs just dropped on DigiKey/Duo. So check that out. A bunch of cool new sensors and revisions. Looks like everyone's getting back in their new product game. This week we saw this really nifty product that basically, one of our first NPIs was an all-in-one indicate, like an audio indicator. Like you plug it in, it would make a siren noise. And the reason we were looking at products like that is because a lot of people were making ventilators. And one of the things ventilators have to do is when somebody starts, their pressure is too high or too low, they have to make an audio alert. So we were kind of showing off, here's some audio alerts that just came in on DigiKey. Well, this is kind of an upgrade to that. So this is like, remember when everyone had the same phone, like Motorola flip phone?
Yeah, it was the
like,
StarTAC. We all had them.
Everyone had the StarTAC, and there was like, this was even before ringtones. Like eventually people could customize their ring, but at the beginning everyone had the same exact ring. Yeah. And then it was like, well, you could program your phone to have a different ringtone. And that's what this NPI basically is. It's a programmable speaker that it works just like most of the annunciators that you're used to. You give it like 12 volts power, and usually it would make a siren noise or beeps or tones. But this time, it's got a USB port on the side you see there, and you can reprogram it. So it's actually this is like one of the shortest NPIs. It was so easy to use. You just plug it in, and it shows up as a disk drive called Flash.
Very CircuitPython, like, by the way, which, like, that's the lens we look through everything. If I'm plugging in something, it better show up as a USB drive at this point.
That's right. So this shows up as the disk, Flash disk. It has about 4 megabytes of free space. And then all you have to do is you create an MP3 file, you drag it over, like this. This actually came with a 1 kilohertz 0 dB MP3 tone, which is incredibly loud and annoying. But I replaced it.
But wait, why is this even possible? I thought you needed like a license to use MP3s.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned it because you've actually done a great job covering how the MP3 patent pool has expired. And so you can sell products that have MP3 decoding in them without having to worry about paying a licensing fee, which normally would be like $1 or $2 per device. Why do that? MP3s should be free. Music is there to be listened to. So what's just neat is I like the simplicity, right? It's just a speaker. It's an 8.5 watt speaker. It kind of shows up as a drive. You drag files onto it, and then you power it, and it plays the files through. And that's it. Really simple. There's no user interface. There's nothing that can go wrong. It uses flash memory for storage, so you don't have to worry about vibration or like an SD card coming out. So I thought I would demo it.
Yeah, and just by the way, I get lots of emails from people like, all I do is want to have an MP3 play when I turn on a thing for something, and like
this is it.
This will do it. This is the easiest, fastest, best way to do it. So this is, and it's just an MP3.
It's just MP3. So this is the device. You can see there's a speaker, and then there's these cool mounting tabs. It's FCC and C certified, so it's great for easy inclusion. It's fully enclosed. That's the mini. I don't know why they use mini B. It's the one thing that's a little bit of a mystery, but it's mini B.
Everybody has adapters.
Everyone has at least one mini B cable.
Deal with it.
Plug it in, shows up as a disk drive. I dragged over a file, and then here's just my DC power. And once it's done playing the song, it'll loop. So it'll start playing it. This has a little bit of a silent period. So it's nice and loud, right? It's effective. That wasn't even like the highest power. It's only on like 5 volts or so. So I thought I'd show the innards because I thought it would be very interesting. So thank you, assistant, for pointing out I put it right next to me.
This is the first thing I asked. I'm like, what's going on with this? Because I like things that show up as USB drives.
Yeah, so I cracked this open. And inside, so there's these 2 power wires. And they go into a, I can't remember the part number, 1 second. It's 2576 DC-DC buck converter. So this is an equivalent to an LM, like a net semi part that is very popular. You can see here the diode and the inductor and capacitor input and output for the buck converter.
Big old caps.
There's a WinBond SPI flash. We actually have SPI as one of our new products. So this is a 4 megabyte flash chip. And then this is kind of a cool, like, very low cost, all it does is play MP3 chip. I can get you the part number. It is.
Yeah.
I was curious.
Okay.
So there's the LM2576, the Winbond 25Q32, and this is the GZUT MA2. So all-in-one MP3 player that pretty much does all the logic. But I just love it. It's like it's all enclosed, it's glued shut, it's easy to use, and then there's a little audio amplifier. There's an output capacitor, I guess, and then an amplifier chip, and then it goes to a speaker that is nicely mounted in this case. So it's just so easy, and it's not that much more expensive than a normal siren. And there's on the back, there's all these little surface mount passive components. So that's my MPI. I like that, and I looked, I think for people who are doing, car hacking projects or like Halloween projects or
Anything that
you just wanted to play a sound.
Yeah, anything also that you may want to play a sound because you want to think about assistive tech. So
Yeah.
you might have something where maybe someone can't see something, but they can have a audio alert. All sorts of things you can do.
And the thing is, it's like, could you make this cheaper by like making your own PCB? Yeah, but nothing beats the simplicity.
But
it just works.
I'll give you another example. Let's say if you wanted to have the alert when something happens plays instructions.
Yeah.
We got this. So during the pandemic, we said, there's not going to be like paramedics. So we got the defibrillators for each floor at Adafruit.
Yeah.
And if you go through the training, basically when you pull the cord on the device, it starts talking to you to give you the instructions to save someone's life potentially. So I was thinking about that. It's like, that's cool, but like, what if I wanted to replace those sounds? Obviously not on a defibrillator, but something like this makes it super easy because someone who's non-technical can just plug it in, drag and drop a file, and now they have maybe another language alert. Maybe they have something else. So this is
so easy.
This is like one of my favorite new products, by the way.
It's the simplicity is what makes it awesome.
And speaking of simple and making it easy, all you have to do is get on DigiKey.
It does have a long part number, I will say. So use the short URL Z2DP0Z, and you can pick up one of these API. What's funny is it's called the API. It's like the audio programmable interface or something. And pick these up. It's super easy, and just drag the MP3 over and power it, and it just works for me.
I'll give you another use.
Yeah.
You want to have the Star Trek door swoosh sound.
Yeah.
Very easy to do with this. You just have a ding,
programming.
ding, ding. No programming. It's just turning it on and off.
That's right. You just hook it up.
Swoosh, 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 swoosh.
You just have a relay with, instead of a relay, you can just use the magnetic switch that detects when something opens.
Yeah.
Connect it to power. Connect it to this. You can even use some like wire nuts.
You can have the door sigh, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy style.
Yeah. I like that. Those depressed doors. So there you go. That's this week's NPI.
All
It's
right.
the API.
Yeah.
On NPI.
Yeah, some folks said the yakety sax thing.
Yeah, let's play that on loop. It was
Play it
funny.
on loop forever.
Again, it's like this like if you have somebody, especially somebody who's like, look, I'm not a technical person. I don't want to learn Arduino programming. I don't want to like have to code or update or change. They just want audio to play. Nothing. This is the easiest way.
I can get around in Arduino world and Python world, but sometimes I don't want to. I just want to put a sound on a thing and plug it in.
Yeah, that's right. You're like, you just don't want like this robot to
Sometimes
speak
I want
when you-
time. Okay.
Time's valuable.
All right, let's kick it off with the new products.
Let's do the new product. It's a new products time.
All right, new products. All right, first up, just a reminder, adafruit.com/opensafely. We are open, ship and safe, ship and smart. You saw our footage. We're not just faking this. We're here. We're not going away. We've been through the worst. We got hit first. We are shipping every single day. We are doing this thing. Thank you, everybody, for all your orders. First product.
Okay, first product is, as we were just talking about SPI Flash, we now have 2 megabyte SPI Flash chips in the store. These are really popular for us. We use them on a ton of CircuitPython boards. Non-volatile, 2 megabytes of memory. The price can't be beat. You don't have to worry about SD cards. They're not that big, but maybe like you don't need more than a couple megabytes of space. So they're a really great in between. An EEPROM that's usually only maybe like half a K or a couple K, an SD card which is like gigabytes but is much more expensive, and this these chips are really well supported in Arduino. They're supported in CircuitPython. They're just an easy way to add a little bit of storage. The reason we put them in is I'll show on the overhead. The new Cutie Pie board that we put in the store has a spot on the bottom to solder in an SPI flash chip. And these SOIC SPI flashes are fairly easy to solder. I think a beginner could do it. And then you would have a little bit more storage for this little microcontroller board. We tend to use these for storing like audio, video, fonts, graphics, animations, anything that's like a file that you don't want to, flash onto the memory of the chip itself. It's like a, accessory. That's where we would use SPI flash chips. It also does QSPI, but we tend to use it for SPI.
All right, next up.
This was a request. We had a couple people email us and say, hey, I broke the camera connector on my Raspberry Pi. Do you sell a replacement part? And I said, not yet, but I will. So this is just the replacement part for the camera or display connector on a Raspberry Pi. This thing, you see this thing? You have it, and people sometimes break them. It happens. You crank a little bit too hard, you pull too much. So now, we stock these parts. So you'll have to desolder and remove the old part. But it's, for some people, they have tools or they can't use a Raspberry Pi anyways. Why not try to fix it? Also, if you crack the little the piece on the top that does the press fitting, you could gently remove that and recycle that as well. So I think this will be handy for folks who would like to fix up some old Pis that are maybe a little sad.
And I have one little note.
Yeah?
I think we all have a friend that, sometimes, if you've ever been with a friend and they're maybe they're...
I don't have friends.
Back when everyone used to
Definitely
go
have
to
friends.
restaurants.
Yeah.
And, you knew someone and they were they kind of be mean to the wait staff or something.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, don't do that.
No.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Or if you see that happen, you're like, don't do that. So if you ever hear or see a friend who sees a picture of something that, one of the things someone's going to say, oh, I thought there was a Raspberry Pi included. So I think this is a good thing to just, maybe help each other if you see or know someone, because there's nobody who's watching our show. They know that.
But it does happen. We have to say, this is why we have to say, it does not include the thing that obviously doesn't include.
When you see, bold text on our product pages, sometimes we're like, why did you have to put that, obviously, that connector to Raspberry Pi? It's 75 cents. Why are you telling people that the Raspberry Pi is not included? It's because sometimes people, if they see a picture of something, they're like, oh, that must be included. We don't include human hands. We don't include a quarter.
Great.
When we have a water sensor, we don't include the glass of water.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. So anyways, Raspberry Pi not included.
Raspberry Pi not included.
Okay,
but it's a great way to fix your Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, next up.
Okay, next up we've got this part lift for the stick vise. This is a very useful part you never knew you needed. It's an accessory for the stick vise, which is quite popular. And this is what it does, right? So you go to solder in your through-hole parts. You put the through-hole part in, and then you have to flip the board over to solder it in. And what happens? The through-hole part falls out.
That's a good idea.
Terrible. So what this is a little springy piece, and it's very light and springy. It's got a grippy end to it. And all this is just hold that part in place so that you don't have the problem of where you're holding it with one finger and then your finger gets hot, or you tape it and the tape melts. Why? Why torture yourself? Comes in a pack of 2. You don't need to use it with a stick vise. You can use it with other vices, but it's the right height for a stick vise, so I do recommend that for it.
Yeah. And this just proves to me that on a long enough timeline, we're probably going to turn into Octopus. Because, we
need 4 hands.
We need so many things like this to do the things we want to do. We've had our run as bipeds. I do think that the Octopus, they're just waiting. They're just waiting.
Yeah,
okay.
do you want me to show on the overhead?
Yeah.
It's got some nice things going on. So first, bottom has grippy rubber on it. Yes, it does not, it doesn't move. This tip has grippy rubber on it, and this is it's springy, but it's soft. It's not going to crush your parts. Yeah. You can use it for delicate sensors or connectors. It's a very nice design, and it's got this cool coronavirus looking thing going on here. But it's not. It's just springy. So I like these. I'm going to use these on my desk because I use the stick vise, and it is a problem. I hate having to hold the through-hole part with one finger, and then that finger gets burnt.
It's handy.
And it happens every time. I never learn my lesson.
Okay, next up.
Next up, we have a big sister to the LSM 6D socks. These are extremely stable, high-quality IMU chips from ST. If you're using an NPU 6050 still, come on, upgrade. You can do better. These aren't that much more expensive, and the quality is like 10 times, 20 times better. The stability is really good. The gyro doesn't drift. It's very fast. You can get very high speeds out of it. And what's nice about the LSM60S32 is the accelerometer goes up to, as you might have guessed, 32G. So most accelerometers or IMUs only have 2, 4, 6, 8, whatever, up to 16G. This one has double the G, 32 Gs. So this is good for like sports or rocketry or like anything with impact where you have high G motion. The gyroscope is the same. It's still a very good gyroscope. I think it goes up to 2,000 DPS. And it works great with our Arduino or CircuitPython code. It's actually pretty much the same sensor. You can tell. It's like all the initialization code is the same as the DSOCs. The accelerometers are scaled by 2 because it goes up twice as high.
Yeah. Next up, a tiny mechanical dinosaur.
I know.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
These are. I've actually always kind of wanted to have automatic wire strippers, and then somebody was like, "How come you don't have them?" And I'm like, "I don't know." So these are kind of neat. I'll explain how they work because they're a little bit complicated. They're simple to use, but like there's a lot that you can do, and I want to explain them all.
Hey.
So normally you use wire strippers that have. Were you making noises?
Hey.
It does look like it's saying hey, hey, hey. You just flip between the two while I'm talking. Normally you have a wire stripper that has multiple holes that like match perfectly to the gauge of wire, and you have to kind of know what gauge wire you're using, and you put the wire in the hole and you strip it. But if you're doing a lot of wire stripping, or you want to have all the wire ends be the same length, you want something like an automatic stripper. So this tongue piece, which is what it uses to say hey.
Hey.
So you'll see here it has inches, and here it has millimeters. So this is like the stop. You set this to how long you want the stripped piece to be, and so when you squeeze the handle, you see that part gets stripped off. So I'll demonstrate with some wire. Okay, I've got some.
There is this. I think when Transformers were kind of ending in the 80s, they were just like, they had to do dinosaurs because everyone was getting dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So they had Transformer dinosaurs for a while.
Cool.
This kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah. Okay, so you have your wire, and so it's like, okay, I know I'm going to strip off this much wire. And then you see these little these dinosaur teeth grip it, and then these dinosaur teeth will strip the wire cleanly.
Yeah.
And it's actually, it's a little bit longer. Oh, you know what? I think there was extra. Oh, right. Okay, so next up you want to cut wire. There's down here these little nippers, and they're extremely strong. So these are like extra hardened. So let me try this again. I think one thing is that I'm kind of holding it in a weird way. Let's see if I can. Okay, now I've got better grip. Okay, so yeah, whatever.
You're out of frame there, but do it again.
Hold on. I want to do this right. I'm going to give myself a little bit more room.
Have it show its little Tyrannosaurus Rex arm. Look at this little thing.
Yeah. Okay, so it's the wire cutter. So then you put it up to the tongue part. Now, you know what? Hold on. I apologize. This is actually a little difficult to do under the camera. Okay. There you go. All right, so every time you do the wire stripping action, you're going to get basically the same length because you've got that tongue as the stop. And then just measure the distance. You can read the distance off of here. It's from like this spot. So you can't have anything with less than like 2 millimeters, but it can go up to about 20 millimeters. There's also like a tension adjust here, but I usually don't mess with that. It can do 24 gauge up to 10 gauge. So it's not for your 30 gauge wires. For 30 gauge wires, you'll need something. I don't like to bite my hand. This is not good for very thin wires like 30 gauge or 28, but it has been great for 24, 22, 20 gauge, which is what most stranded and solid core wire is, and it likes to eat wires. And another cool thing is because the, sorry, now you're having fun there. because the jaw is so wide, you can strip multiple wires at a time. So you put, if you have a ribbon cable, you have multiple wires, you put them all in at once, and you'll just grip them all and strip them all at the same time. So it's like, you're like, why is this so wide? Well, one, so it's easier to line up, but also because you can strip multiple wires. That said, it's, what's nice is you don't have to worry about, like, did I get, like, the right hole, and how do I get the exact same length every time? Whenever I worked on Burning Man projects, like where I had to strip like 575 wires, I would use a pair of these. So for that, it's definitely useful.
Okay. The star of the show tonight, besides the community, customers aren't there. Our Adafruit team is Cutie Pie.
Cutie Pie is in stock. Okay, so they're in stock. I put them on sale even. So if you want one, get one now.
Yeah, let me just tell you about that. So with the way shows, we had to move them around and discount codes. It was just really hard to manage it. So we said, during the show, we'll just make it on sale. So the Cutie Pie will not be this price later. And I know I sound like one of those guys hawking collectible coins, but I really, this is a beautiful $quarter.
You don't get the quarter. The quarter's not included.
The Adafruit Mint will only make 5,000 of these. For the Cutie Pie...
Okay, so here's what you get.
Yeah, so it's the price that's on the site right now live. You're watching live. What is it?
It's $5.
It's $5. It's not going to be $5 tomorrow.
It's not going to be $5 much longer. But, early bird gets the Cutie Pie. So this is, it's a little bit like a trinket. It's smaller than Itsy Bitsy. It's a cute board, and it can run Python, so that's why it's called the Cutie Pie. It also has a Stemma QT connector. It's one of our first little boards that has that. And that makes it great for plug-and-play projects that use any of our Stemma QT boards. And it can also connect to Grove sensors with an adapter cable. It can connect to any SparkFun Quick boards as well. It's perfect. It's the perfect size because like no other connector would fit on a board this small. So it's a SAMD 21 E18. Yeah, it's just actually so small. Can you just actually go to like?
Yeah, but you know what?
It's just.
Yeah, but I wanna try this out a little bit because we got this overhead, and I feel like it's not that I don't like our beautiful photos, but we're doing a live demo here.
I am.
And the thing is like USB-C, Stemma, NeoPixel,
Castellated pads,
reset button, castellated pads, $5. So again, you know how we have that friend who's like, I'll just get a cheap thing on Amazon. Get the cheap thing on Adafruit. It's $5. It's $5 and it's like amazing.
Yes, and it has everything you've ever wanted. So it's got USB-C, so you can plug it any which way you want. And it's got a SAMD 21, so it's like for Arduino's projects, it's amazing. It's got great support. We've written so many tutorials and projects and libraries for the SAMD 21. It's got 256K of flash and 32K of RAM. So, compared to like an Arduino Uno, it's got 8 times as much of everything. There's a regulator that can supply 500 milliamps of current. There's a NeoPixel LED, which I will... Oh, the NeoPixel will not light up because I programmed it. There's a NeoPixel LED here, so it's got full color, and you can turn off the NeoPixel with a power pin. It's got a reset button, so you can get into the bootloader, or you can reset your project very easily.
Yeah.
And it's got that Stemma...
I'll show this real quick.
Yes, thank you for the NeoPixel demo, because I just realized I reprogrammed this.
Yeah.
And then, so let me show... I'm going to have to back this up so I can show off why I think the QT connector is so key. Okay, so focus. Great.
All right.
So I'm going to plug this... Sorry, I'm going to plug in a... PCT 2075, so this is the temperature sensor, and notice it's like it just plugs in with this cable. And then I'm going to chain onto the end an OLED display, like that. And I'm going to plug this in, and I'll rearrange everything so it's all visible. So USB-C, so it's like I don't have to worry, did I plug in the cable the right way? It's always the right way. Let's see if this will work. Okay, great. So, now I've got the Stemma QT, the temperature sensor, and the OLED all connected together without any soldering. I just write some Arduino code, or even you can write some CircuitPython code, and it will, in this case, display the temperature. So when I put my finger on it, the temperature goes up a little bit because I'm warmer than the ambient air. It's also got castellated pads, so you can like embed this into a project or product if you like. On the bottom is an optional SPI flash spot. So if you want to add 2 megabytes of flash, you solder it onto the bottom. We may eventually sell a version that has the flash on it, but so people have the nice flat version by default, and then they can add the SPI flash for a couple bucks if they would like. But we've got like 50 or even 60 now plug and play boards you can use, from air quality sensors to real-time clocks to OLEDs. I've got like a big box here with like distance sensors, and
Yeah.
this is accelerometers.
And one note that Eric put in the chat. So
GPS units.
Eric pointed out, yeah, this is a well-made board. It is.
Thank you.
But on top of that, this is still less than like a crummy Arduino clone that doesn't work. Like because everyone's like, oh, why did I just get that? You could do so much more with this. And so this is one of those ones where it's like, if you're thinking about getting into electronics or someone, this is a really low-cost way. And one of the things that we did with Trinket a long time ago when we released Trinket was we started putting in, it was a free tier in our freebies, and a lot of people weren't scared to do projects because, oh, well, like $9, $10 if it like dies in a project, it's not a $45 dev board. Or I can do lots of things with it. So for $5, well, at least $5 for right now, you can do almost anything and not care what happens.
And you don't have to worry about it. You don't even solder it. Like, there's no soldering required to build most projects. You can just plug and play with any of our I2C boards, and you'd be surprised. Like, a lot of sensors and devices are I2C now. So you can, I have also one over here. I soldered headers to, and you can plug it into a breadboard, and then you can control a TFT, or you can do more advanced stuff because you get a lot of pins. You get analog output, A0, A1 is analog input. Not zoom in. You love the zooming in.
Nice.
Analog output on A0, analog in on A1, analog in on A2 and A3, I2C, you got UART, which can also do analog, SPI. These can all do PWM. You can do I2S. You've got, one of each, I2C, UART, SPI hardware support. So it's very easy to interface with like any hardware you like. You can play little audio clips in Arduino. You can control displays. You can just have sensor data output to serial, and then you can just plug it into your computer and then use it within processing or Unity or what have you. So I think it's, I wanted to have a Trinket-like board with a Qt connector, and this just was the perfect size. It's based off of the Arduino Xiao, which is the same pinout, so you can use the same accessories. It's got the same chip, but it's a little bit different because this one, of course, has a reset button, NeoPixel, and Qt plugs. That's why the layout's a little bit different, because I wanted to fit. For me, it's like if it doesn't have a reset button or NeoPixel, it's kind of tough to use. I really like to have an RGB indicator because it kind of tells you if the bootloader is running. It's also used in CircuitPython to indicate like the state of the runtime, like if it's crashed or if it needs your attention.
Also, it's a great thing for beginners because you can do something like the Hello World blink on it.
Yeah.
So it's practically a free board. $5 is kind of amazing. Anyways.
We'll probably have it be a freebie soon too.
Yeah, probably.
Once we get more
So
stuff.
that is Cutie Pie.
Yay!
It is cute. It runs Python.
If you want one,
Stemma.
pick it up now because it's gonna. We didn't notify some of the sign-ups, and we will as soon as we're done with the show.
That's new products.
Okay.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going
Yeah.
to tell everyone, please go over to adafruit.it/discord. Join all 25,000 of us. We're going to answer your questions soon, but for right now, it is top secret time.
Oh yeah.
It's top secret time.
Oh my goodness, I gotta. Get
It's
on
top
this
secret
stuff.
time. We have top secret things. We have the Adafruit Vault.
I'm doing
And
it. Hold.
we do things that are secret, but they're not because we show you live on video. And this week, Lady Ada is going to show us something.
Oh yeah, you're killing time because I have to
am?
find my cables. A little bit. Okay, great, I found it. All right, so you want to zoom out a little bit? Thank you. Zoom controller. So this is a new Featherboard running CircuitPython, and it has the new CAN bus code in it. So this chip is the SAM E54. It's the kind of an upgrade to the SAM D51, which we know and love. This one has native CAN support. All you need is a transceiver, which you see here, and then we have these terminal blocks on the end. In this case, they're wired together. and they're communicating. So this one is sending messages to this one. You can see whenever it sends a message, this LED blinks. Whenever it receives a message, this LED blinks. And then when I twist the potentiometer on this one, it sends that value over. So a lot of people are like, how do I have multiple nodes connected together? I want to send messages. It's like you can do I2C, but then it's like multi-master, and then you can do UART, but then it's like, what if you have multiple devices and they want to be bidirectional? And then what if you have collisions? And before you know it, you're inventing Ethernet. Well, you don't have to. You can use CAN bus. And
Yes, you can bus.
yes, you can bus. So this is coming soon. It's not out yet. Don't ask, but people will be able to do CAN projects quite easily. We'll have Arduino support as well. But CircuitPython, we're kind of coming up with an API so that people can do CAN projects. You could connect this to your car, or you could just have multiple nodes communicating with each other, like this adorable pair, A and B, Anne and Betty. That's what they're doing.
Back in the vault.
Back in the vault with you.
Okay, so some questions have arrived in Discord. Thank you. And we're gonna answer them. So, first up, Adafruit, I'm trying to use OpenOCD with a Pi 3 to mass storage program, to mass program my NRF52840 base boards. I got the bootloader burn to work. How can I burn CircuitPython on the same pass? UDev, thank you.
I think what you have to do is program in everything, like the bootloader, and then load CircuitPython, and then use OpenOCD to read the firmware file, and then you'll have like one gigantic, like 1 megabyte binary, and then you write that one binary, because I don't think OpenOCD is really good when you have like multiple files. I think it just likes to do one file at a time.
Okay, Cutie Pie, do any of the pins support a lower power source? Example, can I do 3, 4, AA battery pack for portability, or would I just need to use a 5-volt power bank like the ones used for cell phones?
A power bank is our suggestion. So we wanted to match the Seed Xiao design, which does not have a battery input. The Trinket does, but there's not enough space to have, both, all those different pins. So instead, there's basically, you can input power into the V-in pin if you have a diode, so you could use like a battery pack, but you'd have to solder a diode in line, which is a little annoying. But if you're willing to do that, that's one way.
Okay, looks like a lot of people are buying them. Yeah, they're $5 from now, and then later on, they won't be. Only for the show.
It's a deal.
Yeah, okay.
That's why you watch the show.
Next up, is that Modbus? And then, this is for the top secret, so you don't have to answer if you don't want to. And then, can that board work through 50 feet of Cat5 wire? You can. It's optional for you to answer that question or not, because it's a
well. I don't know about Modbus, but if it's based on CAN, if it's a higher layer of CAN, then yeah, you could definitely use it with Modbus. Okay. I'm not using it myself, and then CAN bus, whatever the limit for CAN buses, which is like very long.
Yeah,
cable.
Gerald says for RS 485 and go up to 4,000 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next up. Do you plan to bring any Lattice FPGAs to the Adafruit shop?
No plans right now. We have a couple FPGA boards. I will say that people say they really want FPGA boards, and then we stock them, and then we don't sell any. So it's very challenging. Check out DigiKey. They have tons of FPGA boards for all of your FPGA needs.
Yeah, David asked a good question in chat, and Scott answered it, but you can also add, is everything the Espressa VSP 32S2 really open source, like their library OS? Scott said, no, the ESP
It's absolutely not open
is
source.
binary blobs.
No. I don't know why people think Espressa is open source. They're not, and that's fine.
Yeah, they don't say they are.
They're not. They don't say they are, and so there's no promise. They have great documentation, but a lot of the low-level stuff is hidden.
Yeah, and one thing that they don't slap an open source label on everything. So the expectation is that it isn't. Whatever we touch, whatever we do, it'll be open source, of course. Next up, Adafruit. I understand the Matrix portal can support 64 by 64. How do you scale font size for the larger display size?
Well, if you're using Adafruit GFX, you can load custom fonts. You can set the text size. Ditto with Arduino. In fact, you can look at the Ruth Ginsburg project we did. I show how to take the normal terminal font and you scale it up by like 2 or 3, and there's like a scale, argument you put in.
Okay. Next up, I'll take a crack at this one. Are electronic kits dead, or is the world all about dev boards? So here's what I'll say. The answer is a little bit of both. So the expectation is the new Adafruit Cutie Pie, $5, USB-C, shows up as a USB drive.
There's kits, but the
Yeah.
problem is that there's a lot of the coolest
Yeah.
components are no longer through hole.
So the expectation is no soldering, easy, like basically stemma plugging in stuff, basically plug and play Lego like, easy programming like CircuitPython. That's the expectation, and
Yeah.
it needs to be $5 or
Yeah.
like $10 or, you know.
Yeah.
Now for kits, for people who really want to solder, there's a few things that are challenging, and I think it's going to be a little bit more challenging now because soldering kits is really good in a workshop setting, like a hackerspace, makerspace,
We don't do that
or
anymore.
a classroom setting where there's like, you know,
People breathing.
people breathing and talking and seeing each other, and obviously that's on pause a little bit. So I think the idea of lots of through-hole solder kits they'll always be around, they'll always be something, but I think what we're going to see one day is a combination of the two. So you can imagine something like the Cutie Pie as like the low-cost brains, and then it kind of breaks out, and then you solder in the things that you want.
Yeah.
So you can
But
imagine
people want, they want,
more things like that.
yeah, it's just, there's just not, people absolutely do solder kits. There are solder kits. But kits in and of themselves, the thing is I think when kits were popular, honestly, there wasn't a lot you could do with electronics. Like, just to be totally blunt, like, all you could do was build, like, a radio, or you could build, like, a buzzer. Like, there was just, like, all you could do is build a blinking Christmas tree kit, because there wasn't programmability, there wasn't, like,
Well, here's an
sensors. So you were stuck with, like, well, I might as well make this really basic kit. Now, there's, like, so much stuff you can connect to the internet, you can do Bluetooth, you can
Yeah.
have sensors, you can, like, data log, you can...
Here's an example.
Yeah.
You make an LED, you know, you solder in a bunch of LEDs to get solder practice,
Yeah.
but on the board itself, the thing that you didn't have to solder is Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, and then you control it with your phone.
Yeah.
So I think that's the future, but I do think that we're just in the middle of something else right now, which is workshop settings are really hard to do.
Yeah.
You're not going to have 30 people in a room. It's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
It's not going to be that for now. Okay, next up. Can I power the Cutie Pie via 5-volt pin or only via USB-C?
You can power it through that pin. We'll post up the schematic, but it's got a diode between USB and that pin, so you can power it. You can power it in just fine. Just be aware that when USB plugs in, it will send power through that pin out.
Yeah.
So you have to have a diode on your power supply into it, or it should be just able to handle a 5-volt input.
Any plans for ESP32 radio kit?
Nothing about it.
Okay. People really like to stream this week.
Yay.
Next up, does the Atten 65 soldering iron come with a non-corrosive tip?
Yes, all of the soldering irons we stock have good tips on them, and then you can always get more Hacker compatible tips.
Okay. I think we are through most, if not all, the questions. Looks like we are.
Cool.
I believe someone says they're laying on a board and have been prototyping with the PowerBoost 1000C and was going to use the same schematics and parts on it.
Great.
Is there any magic in the layout, power supply, noise, coil, capacitor, wine? Any recommendations?
You would just look at the data sheet or app note for that boost converter chip. I don't remember if it's a TPS something, and they have layout hints and notes, and just do what they say.
Okay. When will the learning guide for Braincraft be out? Very soon. We got to wrap it up.
Sorry about that. I had a doctor's appointment, and it took me a little bit longer to recover, but I'm going to be working on that tomorrow.
Yeah, we will get it out as soon as possible.
Promise.
Thanks for your patience.
Thank you for holding tight.
Yeah,
I will
we
get it out.
didn't want to hold on to them in stock. We wanted to get them out as fast as
Yeah.
possible. So, and we also figured like, well,
I'm halfway done with it too.
Yeah.
I just have to finish the TFT part, and I'll publish it.
All right. There's no discount code today, August Digital, but if you go to adafruit.com/cutiepie, they're $5 right now. Does the new spring clamp make a boingy sound? No, but theoretically, what you could do is have the Ion MPI product, the little MP3 thing.
It does make it's a little boingy.
But you could have it so when you do that, it's connected and
Yeah.
it's turning off the boing.
It's a very slight boingy sound.
Do you know when those Mecanum wheels are going to be back in stock? I think we're
I
waiting.
don't know. They sold out. You know what's funny? They didn't sell, and they all sold out.
Yeah.
Sign up. I am working really hard, every day. I'm trying to get as much stuff back in stock because I know we had a few months of. It was just challenging getting things in stock and getting things purchased, but we have a newfound direction and goal to getting more and more in stock. So sign up, and I think we'll be able to get them soon.
All right, and Thanks to Dan, who said, we were talking about a lot of the social injustice stuff, a lot of the things that are going on with women's rights from the legacy of RBG. And he said, thanks for talking about things with compassion and logic. It's all we can do. We live in this world too. And so I think, we have our little platform here, and I think we manage to bring people together each week. It's important things to our team, important things to our community. So we just say, there's a way forward, and I know it's going to be hard, and I know we just have to be better to each other and treat each other better. And I don't think you can ignore this stuff. I think you have to figure out. It's uncomfortable. It's awkward. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to stumble. But instead of, just ignoring things, I think if we have tough conversations and figure out ways to be better to each other, that's it. Because this is all we got. Things didn't go in the direction we thought they were after March. We have a long road ahead. And I think that's one of the realizations. We were talking about this.
We definitely live in interesting times.
One of the realizations is hey, you know what? There's a lot of things that we can use this as an opportunity to fix stuff for a lot of people. So with that, that's our show this week, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
And we'll see you next week. Special thanks to, let me get to the chat. I want to say hi to Jessie May. Thank you, Jessie May, for running things behind the scenes. And thank you, everybody in our Adafruit community, our remote team members, our Adafruit team members, folks that are putting stuff in their carts. Thank you so much. We did this special treat. Don't tell anybody about the $5 Cutie Pie because it's going to change soon. Just do this for you. Do it for you now.
Secret.
It's okay to be a little selfish. This one is okay.
This one time.
This one time.
I know.
So we'll see everybody next week, 8 p.m.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Check out GP shows tomorrow. I think I got all the questions.
We also put some Matrix portals in the shop. People want to pick those up. They're also on sale. Mostly because I actually did bad math when I set the price. So I'm keeping the price for now, but I will unfortunately have to change it. I got a warning email today saying, why is the price so low? And I'm like, you're right.
All right. Thank you, everybody. A lot of people like the show tonight. So
all right, sweet.
Okay. Thanks, folks.
Everyone.
We will see you.
It's the dinosaurs. There you go. It's satisfying.
Yeah. The scientists didn't, just because it could, they should have.
I know. Why did we make these?
Dinosaurs.
Why did we give these legs?
Yeah. All right. That's our show for tonight, everybody. Here's your moment of Zener. We'll see you next week.